Good morning. Hey, how's it going? You are watching Jane Nicole Designs. My name is Eileen and welcome to Jane Nicole Designs this morning. Hey, I'm going to be doing the second part of my DIY vintage suitcase because last week we were getting going and things like that, and it was one of those projects where I thought maybe I could get it done in one shot, but nope, I did not. And I promised that I would do my best not to touch the project and just kind of keep going from our part one of last time, but I have to apologize. Good morning, Renee. I have to apologize. I had one of those days yesterday where just some of my girlfriends are having some really hard situations that they're going through. And so I just put on some encouraging music. Good morning. I put on some encouraging music and I just had to craft for a while. Good morning, Joy. It's good to see you're watching. So it was one of those where I do have to apologize. I did touch the suitcase and did a little bit of crafting on it just because I needed that getaway. I don't know about you, but I'm one of those where when life gets a little stressful and things are on my mind, crafting is where I just get to relax and kind of just let my creativity going. You know, I had my music going, and then it was so funny because my daughter Abby, she listened to the last part of the previous video, and after it was over, I was like, oh, maybe I should futz with it a little bit more and things like that, and she's like, no, Mom, you can't. You promised you shouldn't have done that. And so I stopped and then said, okay. But then yesterday was one of those days. My heart was heavy and I just was like, that was the craft that I just felt like it did. It lifted my spirits and things like that. So I want to show you what we're doing, give you a little bit of preview. If you missed last week, you're welcome to go back and look at it. We took a vintage suitcase, and the vintage one, there's a bigger one that's right down here, that brown. We took that and we painted it with white chalk paint, and then just made sure that it wasn't completely covered, but just kind of here and there. And then we took some I just went on the internet and made sure that it was free and okay to use different PNG, that's Paul, Nathan and George, PNG files, and said, hey, you know what, I'm going to print these off. I cut them out by using, here's another one of them. I just printed them off, and then I took just water on a brush, went around the outside, and then tore it so that it's just a little fringe around the outside. So that's what I did. And then I took, I know there's lots of things we're going to be just kind of using today, but I just took Mod Podge. Sorry, it's backwards, but take a screenshot. That's what I always recommend, and then read it backwards. But I used Mod Podge, and then I put the flowers on the suitcase in just a random order. I also used, these are napkins. I took the napkin, took the water, went around the outside, and then just tore those out. Made sure that it has both of the end layers on it, because most of the time I just do single layer. I take the back one off, but this time I want it to be really, show up instead of just blend into the background. So then I just went around it with water, tore it out, and then I have several of those that I just, for time's sake, I just pre-did that. So this is kind of what we're looking at. We've got some backgrounds, some little texture things like that I got off the internet. Like I said, we are doing some stars, just little flowers and things like that. The sky's the limit. You can decide what you want to do. So that's kind of my little pile of what I was using to be able to put it all together. So let me show you what we ended up with, and then I'll tell you what I did from the last time. So this right here, this is it. And I tried to make sure my camera was able to get in there so that we could see it all. So, but what I did after the fact is, remember last week I told you, oh, I was gonna paint the bottom of it. So I did that with white chalk paint. And the chalk paint that I used, this is Waverly, and this is Waverly white, and I did one coat. So, you know, for y'all that want to be able to have it super opaque and you don't want any of the texture darkness to come through, I would suggest doing 2 coats. But for me, good morning, Tisha. But for me, I wanted to make sure that, you know, kind of that vintage, because we're going to do one more step after this, that I'm okay with it not being completely white. So I did that. And then I took the crimson color that what I had talked about last time. It's right there. That's from Waverly as well. It is a chalk paint and it's a matte finish. And all I did was just go ahead. I took, got my supplies here. I took just some paint or, you know, masking tape. I went around the corners. I did not go around this side because we're going to complete this part of the project today, but I just took that tape and just put it around the corner and then just went to town on just painting it. So I only did 1 coat as well because I want, you know, I don't want it too dark of the crimson, but I just wanted to make sure that it had, you know, some color on the outside. It did look fine being all white, but in my Americana room, I want that red to come out in my decor. So I just made sure that, you know what, I want to add that part to my suitcase. So I went ahead and did that. And then I put a hair dryer on it, dried it all off, made sure that everything was completely dry, and then took the tape off. So like I said, this is all Mod Podge on there. This is chalk paint, and like I said as well, this is white chalk paint. So I am going to show you a little bit because I wanted to make sure that, you know, if you hadn't watched the previous one, that, you know, kind of give you a little bit of what we're doing. So what I did is I just kind of finished off a little bit here, and then I wanted to put a star right there, and we're going to try our best to make sure that this stays all in the camera, but let me know if it's one of those where you're like, wait a minute, you know, give me a thumbs up and say, hey, you can see it. Hey, you know, move it to the left, right, whatever. But this is the star that I'm going to use, and I just want to put just kind of a little bit of a peekaboo right there. When I did this, I wanted this to be heavy and then this kind of just to be a little bit sporadic, and I want it to kind of go in a circle. So that's when you're looking at things, your eye kind of goes in a circle. So like when you're looking at a book, it does the circle around. And I want that to kind of convey what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to leave this part, you know, the white, because I just kind of want your eye to follow each way around and not be distracted by, if everything was completely covered, then your eyes kind of go, you know, they don't know where to go. So I'm just, from an art standpoint, I'm just going to make sure that it's completely, you know, pleasing to the eye to look at. So I'm going to be using the Mod Podge. This one here is matte finish. Yep, it's matte finish. And the reason why I'm doing the matte is I'm going to be putting a varnish over it. And the vintage wax, I just want to make sure that, you know, if I did shiny, it might catch some of it, but it's up to you what kind of matte or shiny finish you want to use. So let me get my paintbrush here. I'm just going to be using just a big flat paintbrush. And I, first of all, put Mod Podge on the where it's going to go. Just like this. And then because this is a napkin, I'm just going to set it on there. If it was a piece of paper like this right here, it's strong enough to take the Mod Podge because it is a little bit, you know, kind of pasty. So I don't want to rip my napkin. And, you know, you can use paper, you can use napkins. I just found what images I really liked, and so I just wanted to make sure, let's make sure where it's going. I have enough Mod Podge, there we go, so that I can just tap it down and not have to worry about the napkin ripping. So you can do Mod Podge on just about anything. Glass, you can do it on metal, you can do wood. That's what I love about using this product. And there's all sorts of finishes too. There's the matte, and then there's the shiny. I also have Mod Podge for dishwasher, if you want to put it on mugs or something like that. And this will be dishwasher safe. If there's something that you want to put outside and you want it to get, you know, a little bit of rain, not a ton of rain, but if you're worried about it getting wet and wilting. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do, here's this little piece I'm going to put down. There we go. The next thing I'm going to do is just put a thin coat over the top. And because it is a napkin, it's going to be a little bit wrinkly because it's double layered. And I'm okay with that because I want a little bit of texture to go on. So let me know how your weekend went, how the beginning of this week is going as well. Did you guys, oh, good morning, Amy. Did you guys get the sunshine over on the west side? I know some of up in I know Tisha's watching from Canada. How is it going up there? Is it springtime yet? Are you ready for planting? That's one thing here, moving to Idaho, not knowing you know, how to garden here. It's a little bit different than Washington. So I've been asking all my friends, okay, how does this work? Do you do seeds inside? Because, you know, not even a week and a half ago, maybe, we had a little bit of frost in the morning. So it was like, oh, I don't know. We'll see. But I did buy some little, or about 1.5 feet tall by 5 feet, the rounds that you would use for cattle water troughs and things like that. So I'm going to be filling those in the next week or so with dirt. And I'm not sure. I was told that I could do seeds, but I think I might be, for my first year, I might do startings of plants instead. So, and then just knowing, I'm not really sure what is great around this area. So it's one of those where I thought, well, it could be trial and error the first time around. And I do have a girlfriend that she's doing the same thing. And I think I told her, I said, call me when you go and pick up your startings, because then I'll have a better idea of when, you know, when I can do this. So anyway, let me know what you guys are up to. I love finding out where and when and what you're up to. So I'm going to be using this brush maybe a little bit later on in my project. But when I do that, I want to make sure that it doesn't dry out. And I just take a baby wipe, just roll it around there just to make sure that you don't have it dry out. Every once in a while I have to do a brush, I call it a brush funeral, and throw it away because I've been doing a project and I'm like, oh yay, this is great, and then I end up forgetting to wash out my brush, and then I have this stiff brush. So just a note, one of those little DIYs, put a baby wipe around it, or a wet paper towel or napkin or something like that while you're doing it. I know some gals, they actually have a you know, like a mason jar or something like that with water in it that they can just plop it in. But I have a kitty that would drink out of the water, so I have not done that. So okay, getting back to this, I'm going to be back and forth today. It's one of those, my mind is on lots of fun things and trying to decide what to end up and finish this project off. It may go exactly as what's in here, but it might not. So we're going to do, after we put the Mod Podge on here, I'm just going to shoot it with a little bit of hair dryer, so it will be loud for a second. But I want to dry the top layer just because we're going to do another step, and I want to make sure that this part of it is dry. So hold on, it's going to get noisy, but just only for a few. for being so patient. I just want that little coating to get on there because, like I said, when we're going to be putting on the wax, I want to make sure that I don't rip that napkin there. So, okay, so this was the distressing that we did last week, but after it was over and done with, I'm like, you know what? I want to do something a little bit different with the end of this suitcase. So I'm going to give it a little bit of texture. And in my Americana room, this is some of the ribbon, and I have curtains that are like this. And so I want to carry that. I do have a little bit of, down at the bottom there, I have a little bit of that buffalo check kind of look, but I want to incorporate it into my, my complete design here. So I just thought, you know what? I'm going to take the end of here and I'm going to just Mod Podge it down. And I want that to get that little, you know, reminder of the room in there. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to Mod Podge it down, and then I'm going to take my water and I'm going to just rip around the sides so that, see, I knew I was going to use it again. I want to make sure that it kind of just does a little bit of an edge around there. So, and then after I put this on, I say you don't need a ton, but I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, and then I'll be putting on the Mod Podge on the top of it. So, let me know if you guys have done this. It's one of those. Did you, from the last time, did you go back and see if you can find a suitcase around the house or go vintage shopping? And last week, after I started this project, I was working at, I volunteer at a thrift store, and sure enough, see the blue suitcase there, that came in, and I was like, uh-oh. So I'm like, okay, I need another vintage suitcase to play around with. So we'll see. I'm not sure what I'm going to end up doing with that one. I was talking to my husband, and he was like, you know, the blue, definitely we'll have to paint that. But the other brown one, I think we may just keep it like it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel apart this one because I don't, and this napkin is 2-ply. So it just takes, oh, I need my glasses, hold on. Make sure that I can do this without ripping it too much. And I'm not going to be using the corner, so I'm just going to take a little piece of the corner off so that it does come out. And there's a rip in it, but that's okay. There we go. See if I can get it going. It might take a few minutes because of the ribbing on here. It does, and I did cut it down the side too, so it's one of those. Maybe my fingers aren't working this morning as well. There we go. So let me know, have you done this with Mod Podge and napkins or our transfers, things like that? There we go. Ta-da. Okay, there we go. It might take a few, but well worth it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that it kind of goes down. I'm going to, oops, I want the back there. And I'm just going to put it so that it lines up to the top. We're going to just nicely push it all the way down. See how that goes? It goes on like a dream. There we go. Okay, so now that I have that on there, I'm going to take, I just have a little tray here. I can show you really quick. It's just a tray of water. And I'm just going to take it and pull it down the side. And then go ahead, keep your finger there. And just tear it down the side. You could cut it with the scissors. You could do whatever you want. but for me, I think this, I like that torn look. Let me see if I can get it up there. See how it's just gonna go right down the side, and it looks like it's just gonna be part of that. And there we go. That's where it's gonna start tearing. And you don't want to put too much water. You don't want to tear it too far over, but just enough. You can put your finger on the side. But I'm okay if it goes a little bit inside there. But you just want to make sure that where you want it to go is that's where it's gonna. I could also take an X-Acto knife if I wanted to and just go down the side, take scissors, whatever is fine. And I do have a little bit of an edge going over on the red, so I'm gonna just take that right up to the corner there. Just do it that way. And then just pull a little bit. And the cool part about the Mod Podge there, it will, if you rip your napkin, you can just move it. I have a little bit of a tear right there, so I'm just gonna squish it together. But like I said, I like the kind of the vintage look. Kind of, I call it the crafty look, I guess you'd say. And I also made sure, sometimes on napkins they have the copyright on them. So I make sure that when I do a project that copyright, unless you really want it on there, that it comes off the side. All right, so I'm just taking my fingernail and getting rid of some of that little paper that I don't want on the side there. But I think that turned out great. I love it. Now, there is the seam down here, and I will use an X-Acto knife when I'm ready to open it up so that you don't have any, you know, you don't want to have it completely closed all the time, unless you don't want to open up this box. But the suitcase, I want to make sure that I can open it up. Okay, so now I'm going to take one more coat and just lightly go over it. Make sure that those ends go down. I do have a little bit that went around there, so I'm going to take it and push it back. There we go. And that's the thing about this. I'm not really looking for perfection, that I'm going to be viewing this through a microscope of if it's exactly in the same right spot, because this piece will be not one of those where you're going to be walking up to it all the time kind of thing. So, but I do want to make sure that the sides go down. And when you're dusting this, you just want to make sure that you get a good coat over the whole thing, so that your when you dust it, that it doesn't get in the nooks and crannies and tears the paper. So I just want to make sure that I get a good coverage on it. And I'm going to move Mod Podge. I only want it really on the napkin. So it does look like it's cloudy, and that is exactly what it's supposed to be. It will dry, the Mod Podge will dry clear. And that's one of the good things I like about it. When you know it's dry, it'll be pretty clear. So there we go. All right, just a little bit more. And then I'm gonna do the other side, because, oh, there we go. There's a piece of Mod Podge that's really chunky. I don't want that. And then I just go ahead and make sure you don't want big glops because it's gonna take longer to dry. Okay. So let me put my brush in a spot where it's gonna stay. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a quick peek of it. So this is what it looks like. And there's just a little bit of, yep, good morning. I'm so glad, Mom. I'm gonna say, Jan and Ron, you're watching. Good, I'm glad you got on today. So yeah, this is what it's gonna look like. And then I'm gonna, for time's sake, I decided, because I may, when I put this, display this, I might even have it sitting like this so that you don't have, you don't see the top or the bottom part. So I'm not sure yet if I'm going to be doing this whole side. So I just wanted to show you, you know, last week I said, hey, what about if you did one side, one theme, one side, the other, and used it in your decorating? And I think that that is a great idea. And I'm not gonna do the same yet. I'm gonna kind of decide if I want to do something a little bit different on the other side. But for now, my plan is to take and put pedestal legs on the bottom of it and use it more as a table instead of you know, more of, instead of like a decorative piece on you know, like a suitcase laying on the ground or something like that. I do have a spot in my room where I do study, and I want that to be like a little lamp kind of stand and things like that, where I can put a few things on it and then be able to use it for like a coffee cup or a lamp or something like that. So I will decide that later, but I'm not completely sure if I'm going to do that yet. So as I say, this is one of those projects where it was like, okay, let's make sure that we have our options open, and then we'll see how it turns out. That's the one part about crafting. I love to be able to, you know, put your own swing. I know I've said this before, but when everybody has the same supplies, but then it turns out in a completely different way, I think that's super fun to be able to put your own spin on things. All right, let's see if I can get this one quicker than the last one. Here it goes. All right, like I said, go ahead, take the, if you want it to be super white, but I don't, I just want it to kind of blend into the side, and because I already have a white background, go ahead and take that off. And we're just gonna put it right here, smooth it out. And like I said, this is super easy to be able to do that. And I usually, you know, put in the comments where have you gotten your napkins, that if you are doing decoupage like this, where do you get your napkins at? I have a few places where I get mine, and they are kind of spendy. They're, you know, $4 or $5 a pack, but some of them are, you know, just the size and type that I want. But in the comments, go ahead and let me know where you get your napkins at for doing this. Okay, so after I just put the water on there, I'm just gonna pull it down. There we go. I'm gonna take my water again. This right here is a little dry, so I just gonna take it with my fingernail and pull it off to the side. There we go. Let's see, let's start up at this top here. And I could see, if you wanted to take this and not just put one piece on here, you could do a bunch of different patterns and things like that. Fill it all up. Last week, Joy was talking about doing maps and things like that. I think it would be a really cool project to put everywhere that you've been on a suitcase, and then all your favorite trinkets and things like that from where you've been goes in the suitcase. I know for us, when we go to different places, I like to get the books and things like that of where we've been. You know, sometimes my photography isn't the best, so I'm like, okay, every once in a while we'll get a book of someone else's photography from that area or where we've been. So, okay, I just took the water. I think it's good. Let's make sure, I'm a cleaner upper as we go, so make sure that your area is cleaned up. But I'm gonna take just the last bit here, make sure it is all down, and then go ahead and just put one more coat. Just be gentle and make sure that you do not rip the napkin. And I think for this one here, like I said, after it's dried, I'm going to make sure that I can take an X-Acto knife and make sure that I can open up my suitcase. All right, so this corner here, it didn't get underneath, so I'm gonna redo that. Go ahead and just take a little bit of the Mod Podge, put it down with your finger. And like I said, this stuff is super pliable. It's easy to just pick up where it doesn't, you know, it's not on there, and you can just go ahead and push it down again. The Mod Podge does kind of go and soak into the napkin. I do like that about using napkins instead of paper. But the paper is a little bit more, you know, two-dimensional. It's got, or three-dimensional, it's got a little bit of lift in it. I'll show you some of the different pieces that I did with paper. And the difference between 1 ply and 2 is just up to your liking. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna take that off, make sure that everything around, and the cool thing about this is if I have a piece that's not sticking right, even if it dries again, I can go put another coat back on. Like right here, it's like, let's do that again. And then just making sure that it is all covered where you want it to be. And I can see this if you want to do like a harlequin pattern, if you want to do more flowers, different things like that. Wouldn't it be really cool? I would love to do like a birthday suitcase and you know, put all your treasures and things like that from birthday parties. I know my mom, she was super into birthdays. And for us, she made like, one of my favorite memories is she took and did a Barbie doll cake. And you know, you take the skirt and you make the skirt and you put all the little tiny flowers of frosting on it. And I remember her taking so long, and you know, I'm a twin, and so there was 2 of us for birthdays. So here she is, she's, you know, taking the piping and going on each of those little flowers on it. And I loved that idea of just celebrating birthdays. So my family is like that, where my girls, they love their birthdays, and you know, they're older, a little bit older now, but they're like, okay, Mom, what's the theme? What's the games? What's the, you know, whatever it is. And even though, you know, they're older and things like that, they still love their birthdays in that way. And I love it because I love to do all the decorating and all the, you know, planning and things like that. So my suggestion to you is birthdays are the best, and making that person feel special. And I think this would be really fun to do a suitcase where all of your treasures and things like that, pictures of all your birthdays and whatnot. I think that would be awesome to do that. So, okay, it's gonna get a little bit loud again, sorry about that, but I'm gonna make sure, because one of our next step that we're gonna be using, I want this to have some coating and things like that. So hold on. Okay, thank you for being so patient. Ooh, Amy, your grandson's birthday. Oh, absolutely. Yes, it is. It's one of those. Like I said, you can guess my age on there, and I'll tell you when we're done. But I love it. And the fun part about my birthday is that, you know, my husband's Jeffrey's, his is the 19th of March, mine's the 25th. And when the 19th comes around, my daughter Emma, hers is April 19th, and you know, she texted Jeffrey this on his birthday and said, "Hey, happy birthday!" But just to let you know, my birthday's in 4 weeks. You know, so it's like a month till my birthday. So I get it. It's one of those. Okay, so what I did is I made sure that I can touch it. It is not completely dry, and you can see that there's a little bit of the white there, opaque. So it is not as dry as I would absolutely love it. But for time's sake, it's one of those where as long as I'm not pushing super hard on it and things like that. But I wanted to show you the next step that we're going to be doing. And the cool part about it is there's several different ways that you could do this. And I'm going to give you a couple options. And I have a couple different ones here. This is what I'm going to be, what I chose. This is antique. It is wax from Waverly. And I want my, my project to look old and vintage. If you wanted to, you could do white and look like the French country where it is shabby chic with that white. And then I also have, if you're just wanting to keep, let's say I just wanted to keep this just like it is, but you know, when you have chalk paint, you want to make sure that you seal it in a way that, you know, you can dust it and, you know, take a little wet washcloth or baby wipe or whatever and be able to dust it. That's the big thing. And so this one is clear. So either way, you know, it's just your choice. And like I said, Waverly is kind of my go-to. I love their chalk paint. Here's another option that you could do. This is Hello Hobby. I believe I got this at Walmart. But the thing is that this one here you can paint on, and the varnish here, I've used it in several different ways on metal. I've used it on wood, just different things like that. The one thing about using the varnish here, it says don't shake. And the first time I used a product or on a product, I shook it up and I had bubbles everywhere. And so just my caution to you is go ahead, make sure when you use it, just rock it back and forth like this. And that kind of gives it a little bit of a, you know, mixing, but you don't want it to be, you know, you don't want it to be bubbly. And unfortunately I did that. So that's one of those. Okay, so now how I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna clear off my little spot here. I've got tons of little things laying around, so I wanna make sure that I don't get in the way of what I'm doing. And I'm gonna take my brush that I use with my Mod Podge, put that away so that I can clean it in a later time. Move this over here. Okay, so what you want to do when you do do varnishing, if you would like, this is just an old towel that I had from my kitchen a long time ago, and I'm going to take my scissors here. I'm just going to cut off a little piece because when I use varnish, it's going to dry on my towel. It's going to get a little crusty, and so I really don't want to reuse when I use varnish. The wax, I mean, you could, but for this project, I'm going to be using a lot of wax here. So I want to make sure that, you know what, I'm going to use this piece and I'll probably just throw it away because it's going to have a lot on it. So the next thing I'm going to use, I have gloves here because I want to make sure that when I go out this afternoon, it doesn't look like, you know, I've been sitting in dirt too much today. So I'm just going to put gloves on, and I look, these are dirty. I've reused them with, you know, different projects and things like that. So it's not a huge deal on them. So because I have the Mod Podge here and some of it is chalk paint, it's going to do a little bit of, you know, different layers of coloring. So this one here, you do want to shake this one up. And I'm going to tell you kind of what it says. It says apply a thin layer of wax to the project, and then or brush with a lint-free cloth immediately to remove any excess wax. So I'm going to put this on here, but because I don't want it, well, you'll see when I put it on here, it's going to be super dark. I don't want that. I want just a little bit of an antique. I don't want a mud look. So last week I showed you, but I use baby wipes just to take off as much as I want. So I'm going to show you here. Let's see, let's make sure that we can get in here and see everything. You don't need to see me. You can see the project, right? But I'm going to open this up. This is what it looks like. Kind of like mud. You've done some mud pies. I'm going to make sure that I get it in a way that right now there's enough in here. So I'm just going to take it like that. And then I'm just going to go in a motion circular and see how the napkin there, it's got some divots and things like that. And that's okay. Do you see how the Mod Podge has a little bit more of a smoother texture? And then when I go on the suitcase with the texture and no Mod Podge, you can see all that grain and things like that. And then I'm gonna go over the crimson that I did. And I know this is looking kind of weird, but keep on with me. It's gonna go vintage, I promise. But I love how the wax is going on the crimson. It makes it really dark. Get in those little nooks and crannies where you had your the ribbing and things like that. Okay, so there's quite a bit on here, and I'm okay with that. Here we go. So I'm going to put this off to the side. Here's the magic part. Watch. It's just going to start to get a little bit lighter, and it's going to start to look a little bit more like what I want it to. I want the flowers to pop out a little bit. You could take off and do as much of this as you'd like, or as little as you would like. But just see how it starts to make things look a little vintage. And I'm going to show you a little bit closer up front. So see how that just starts to make it just a little bit like, it's a little dirty, but it's not. It's a little, you know, whatever you would like it to look like. And if I wanted to, if I have a spot that, man, it really came off and I want a little bit more on there, like right here, it's really light, I could go back and just take my my wax, put it back on there, and then just start wiping off what I like and what I don't like. And that's the fun part about using this wax. You can decide what you want to do for, you know, the vintage. And if I was using this as just like a example, I would go ahead and try the white wax on it, but I'm already committed to the dark color, so I'm going to keep going on that. but you can put as much as or as little on as you want. And in the comments, let me know, have you done this before? Is this something where you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this? Or is it something, are you a seasoned pro at it? And this is, like I said, this is one of my first times doing this big of a project with it. And that's what I love about crafting. It's the adventure of just learning how to be creative in different ways. And I want to make sure that I get in those little cracks down the side because I want that to be darker. So I'm just gonna get in there with my wax. There we go. And like I said, you want to get in those little nooks and crannies. So that's the part that you want to stay darker. All right, so let's see. Let's go for some of this a little bit lighter. Okay, tell me thumbs up. Give me a, okay, this is a great project, I'm gonna do it, or nope, I'm gonna keep mine crisp and clean. I remember doing this with a bottle kind of when I was in, I think elementary school. We did this as a project, and I took, I think, cats or something like that, and I put a bunch of pictures of cats all over a bottle, and then we did this antiquing kind of thing. Not at this size, but let's see, I want that to be lighter right there. Just see how that goes. We're just gonna make it a little bit, like I said, you can do whatever you like. If you want it completely dark, but I want it just to look a little bit more vintage. All right, see how that's going? I think on the top here, I just want a little bit of kind of around these little spots. I don't want it too thick over some of these white spaces. I think I want it a little bit less. And that's what I love about these baby wipes. It's one of those. It's so much easier to do it this way. And if you see some of that, the paint is actually coming through. There we go. And like I said, I can futz with this all afternoon, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of how this works. Like I said, there's some of it I don't mind to have it go back a little bit and give it a little bit of a sheen on it. See how it's catching each of the little edges of the Mod Podge. Like I said, that's the cool part about these kind of projects. You can go back in and add a little bit more. There, I think I want that a little bit darker. And you can tap on it. It looks like, yeah, it's cool when you can tap on it a little bit. Put that down. Okay, so there you go. Isn't that cool? It just makes it a little bit, oopsie, don't like that part there. We'll move that. And that's what I say, you can do a lot of different textures and things like that. So let's go on to the end here. And this is one of those where I don't have to do be too precise on this one. We're just gonna go back, and you know what, I think we'll see. I might even just leave the back white and then just wax and then put my Mod Podge on the top, because you can do that. You can layer the different things on the back even though there's wax on it. Okay, I've got, I think, enough of what I like on there. All right, again, we're going to take the baby wipes and just go down the sides to what my liking is, and taking off that wax. Throw these away. So if you have any questions, let me know. This is my best rendition of kind of just teaching this project to do the old vintage look. There's a lot of suitcases and different things like that out there that, you know what, needs a little TLC. And this, I think, TLC part is perfect. But let me show you up close there. So it's one of those where you can decide how much, you know, of that vintage look that you want. You can, like I said, you can decide what you want to do. And then what this will do is this wax will dry, and then you are good to go. I wouldn't put anything else on after this wax is on here. Then every once in a while, I've seen where about every 6 months or so, if you have this in a spot where it sees light and or any type of weather, that you can just freshen up the wax, you're welcome to do that. But that's why I think sometimes the varnish might be, you know, if you want to just varnish it and be done with it, that's totally fine too. Okay. And like I said, I think I want some of it showing, some of it not. There we go. And then let's do this. This is one of those where I'm going to do the whole back. And it, like I said, this doesn't take a whole long time, but just go ahead and go for the gusto. Be daring. And see how, you know, see how this wax stuff takes you. I think it's fun to be able to experiment on different things. See if you can see it there. I know some of you are probably cringing and going, "Oh, what did you do with all this white?" now it's all dirty. But like I said, you can go around and put as much on as you want, or as little as possible, just to make it a little bit vintage. I think sometimes just that little daringness of, you know, doing something different and new mediums and things like that, that's the fun part of crafting. And that's why this journey that I started and being on and things like that, it's been such a joy to be able to experience, you know, some new crafting things and new friends and whatnot. And then just kind of go in, like I said, just be a little daring. Okay, now we're gonna take it and just do some of the white down here. And for this one here, I'm going to make sure that my hardware, I did when I painted this, I did keep opening up the hardware so that I wanted to make sure that I could open it after the fact instead of, you know, painting it and then I wouldn't be able to open it up after that. So if you're going to be doing a project like this, make sure that you can open up your open up the suitcase if you so choose to make sure that it does that. And see how it is. You can decide how much you want on and off of the wax. And you can also try it with a dry cloth too. But for me, I don't want it as dark. I want it just more of a, almost like a kissed vintage look. Maybe I want it a little bit more dirty on the sides down here, so I want it a little bit darker. And I'm going to take one of these old, the ones that have a little bit more on there. All right. So now that I've kind of got it, the color that I want it, now I'm going to do a little bit in the middle here because I want it to be a little bit lighter in the middle, and having the outside a little bit darker. Just think about if it, you know, you're looking at it and what would quote get dirty, like the edges here would be a little bit darker. The inside you probably wouldn't touch it as much. So I want to kind of keep that, the middle lighter. Just like that. Just kind of keep it going. And it's all depends on what you want to do. It's your decision of how dark you want to use it. Now I'm just going to tap it a little bit and make sure that those swishy lines get, I don't want them to show up too much that I've actually swirled the baby white. So I'm just going to tap it. Okay, and now I'm just going to kind of keep looking. Where do I want this to see how that's darker right up there? I'm going to take some of that off. There we go. Now you can see on the top there. Oh, sorry, it's getting a little, my camera's shaking. Okay. And that's the thing about this project. It's going to be however you want it to be. So I'm just going to show you, there's a little bit like right here. I'm looking to get rid of some of that. I don't want it as dark. And like there's a little bit of a line right there. I want to make sure that that goes. I will put a picture of this on at the top where I have a picture of it before it started and then after. I think that'll be a fun before and after kind of look. Okay. Now it looks like right there I might have to put some Mod Podge there. I kind of went too vigorous on it there. But this is how it's looking. Okay. And like I said, you can just keep putzing around and doing whatever you'd like. But I'm gonna call it good for this right now. Because I like the vintage look of a little bit of shabby dirt kind of thing, but yet it's not real dirt. Okay, so for time's sake, we're gonna call it good. So here it is. I'm gonna give you a little bit of. I haven't done the bottom yet. I'll do that later, just for time's sake. But this is how it is. Just a little bit of vintage dirt looking kind of thing. And so I wanted to show you the last thing I was gonna do with this. And let's make sure, I gotta wipe my hands off because there's the powder from the gloves are in it. Okay. We always want to keep ourselves clean. That's definitely when we craft. I know people say, oh, I'm a dirty crafter, but I'm like, no. Okay, so this is my plug for Burndy. I'm going to be using Burndy zip ties, and Burndy is one of the companies my husband, he works for. And so he was like, Eileen, let's see if we can use these, and I am. But I'm going to show you what I'm going to use them for. And this is the best way. I'm not going to be, you know, lugging this around. So it's not that pertinent that I have to pick something that is super durable and things like that. More for just decorative, today. So I'm going to take this is a piece of twine here. I got it from the dollar store or Dollar Tree, I think it is. And I'm going to put it on the top here. And I'm going to use these zip ties because I'm not going to be, like I said, I'm not going to be using the zip, the suitcase for, you know, everyday use. So all I'm going to do is just take the zip tie. I just pulled it in half. And I'm just going to pull it as tight. And these zip ties are amazing. So go ahead and just give it a big pull. And these are clear, so they're not going to be seen, that I as well. So I'm going to decide, do I want, yeah, I'll cut that, I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter. Let's make sure I can get this without, these are my junk scissors, so just FYI. I wouldn't want to use my, you wouldn't want to use fabric scissors or ones that you cut fabric with, because that would totally dull your that would totally dull your scissors. Okay, so we're just gonna go put this around. And say, I'm gonna bring it around to the back and just give it a big yank. There we go. Okay, so there is our handle. We got to finish it off. We don't want to, that would not be good. We want to make sure that it is finished off, but I'm just going to cut these. And then I have right here, these are little squares, and I'm just gonna pick something that is a little bit like, I got this at a thrift store. It was a Crafters, all their extra pieces and things like that. And let me decide here. I think I'm gonna go like this. We're just gonna put this on there. And so I'm just gonna take a little piece here and I'm gonna cut it into little, or just take little cuts there. And then we're gonna pull, and I wanna just have a couple pieces I'm gonna just tie around so that it just gives it a little bit of a finish. And you could make it longer if you want to. I just picked that little square out of the, but see how it just kind of finishes it off. I'm gonna put it up here a little bit, just so you can't see that zip tie. There we go. Let's get over the corner here. We want to make sure that we can get this put together. If you wanted to, you could also just hot glue them, but my hot glue gun is not on, which is okay today. But we're just gonna put a little bit of ties on there. I probably will go back and take the glue gun to it, because it's starting to, it's not long enough. But anyway, this is how I would, you could also use wire. You could do, you know, because when I got this, it didn't have a handle. So I was like, ooh, I got to figure out something. So anyways, this is it. I'm going to show you, see if I can put it up here close enough. This is it. And this is one of those things where it's at your you know, desired vintage look, things like that. But I would love to see if you have decided that, you know what, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna take a suitcase and I'm gonna put Mod Podge on it, and I'm gonna do some wax and things like that. See what you can do. Like I said, I'm gonna come back here. It looks like I have some little marks and things like that, but I will finish up, like I said, just for time's sake. It's one of those where, like, we could be here all afternoon just kind of playing around with it, and I may do that, but I just wanted to show you how fun it is to be able to take. I got this suitcase for $4.99 at a thrift store, and actually I got half off, but it was $4.99 in the thrift store. And just to be able to put trinkets, things that you know, want to treasure, and you don't want it to be sitting out. I know how that goes, where I just have, you know, closets full of stuff and I just don't want to throw things away. But this is a beautiful decorative piece that you can put and be able to hide all your goodies. So with that in mind, let me see what you guys are up to. Even if it's not a vintage suitcase, go ahead in the comments. Give me a idea of what you guys are working on. Just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today. It is one of those where I so enjoy hanging out, just teaching things, knowing where you guys are at, what you're up to, and things like that. If you do see the live there, that means that I'm live. And if not, go ahead and put #replay. That just allows me to see when you're watching and things like that. So I have a surprise for you next week, and I will give you a little bit of a heads up. I have it hiding back here, but we are going to do something that I have never ever done before. So I'm going to show you what it is. I got this off of Etsy. And I do have some extras. So if next week, if you want to, I'm going to have a little bit of a pack that you can, if you want to purchase, you can. But this is what we're going to be using. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So I hope you enjoyed today. Go ahead and follow me, JaneNicoleDesigns.com. I have a Facebook, Etsy, and YouTube channel, so come along with me on my crafting journey, and I so appreciate you guys watching. You guys take care, have a wonderful week, and enjoy the weekend. Thanks. Bye-bye.